Gentlemen, today I want to talk about the sunk cost coffin. And we're going to look at how the fear of loss buries men alive. So I'll start with a question. If you woke up tomorrow and realized that your marriage was killing you, literally, it's killing your health, your joy, your sense of self, will you have the courage to walk away? Or will you stay simply because of all the years already invested? So I'm going to tell you the story of Mina. And the story of Mina is a story of many men. So Mina was 45 years old. To his neighbors in Juja, which is where he lived, and to his congregation, because he was a church elder, he was a calm, respected church elder. He was a man of dignity, a man of authority and wisdom. And he wore his hair short and neat. He had freckles of gray, and his suits were polished, which were always polished. They now hung loose on his shrinking frame. But behind the mask was a man that was cracking quietly. Mina had been married to Jane, who was his campus sweetheart, for 20 years. She had once been a very radiant lady with soft curls and graceful dresses. She had a magnetic laugh that lit up the room. Anywhere she walked into, Jane was capable of lighting up the room with a magnetic laugh. But time, or perhaps menopause, had hardened her. She had become a very hard woman. The warmth was now gone. Her laughter had turned into sarcasm, and her presence had turned into combativeness. Their home became a battleground. They were fighting over bills, they were fighting over the children, they were fighting over trivial things like how Maina was chewing his food. Maina looked at all this and he withdrew. He thought, the kids should not see this war between me and their mother. I should just stay silent. So he retreated into himself, he spoke less words, and he went silent. Slowly, silence became a distance, and the distance became suspicion. Jane began to withhold sex from Maina. So every time he reached out to her in their bed, she pushed his hand away. The nights turned cold, and Maina wondered if she was seeing somebody else, and whether what she denied him, she was giving to another man. So loneliness inevitably gnawed at him. Weekends found him at the office, because now he was spending a lot of time in the office. He could not stand being at home. The golf course, he spent a lot of time on the golf course during the weekend. And he also started frequenting the bar, anywhere but home. A glass of whiskey became three, and in the dim haze of a club that he frequented, he met another woman, slightly younger, a gentle woman, very attentive, a woman who listened to him. And for the first time in years, he felt wanted. Soon, Maina was living a double life. He was an elder by the day, and he was a broken man clinging onto borrowed warmth by night. That became his life. Oh, you're asking, divorce? Yeah, he thought about divorce. But then came the excuses. What about the kids? What about our joint investments? What about my reputation as a church elder? What will people say? How can I, who has presided over so many weddings, become a hypocrite? So divorce was off the table for Maina. So he stayed in his marriage. Initially he ate a lot of food to numb his pain, what we call comfort eating. And he grew very fat and obese. But then again, he lost appetite and stopped eating altogether. And his shirts clung onto his shrinking frame like a skeleton. His body gave one day, he just collapsed. And he was rushed to hospital. And one thing I tell guys is many men don't go to hospital. Many men are taken to hospital. Don't be that guy. So back to the story of Maina. So he was rushed to hospital. And at the hospital, the doctor told him, you are highly stressed. Your blood pressure is dangerous. It's high. So you must rest. But now it created a dilemma for Maina. Rest where? Was he going to rest in the home which had become a battleground, where he could not get the attention that he needed, where he felt he was receiving cold treatment? Okay? Was he going to sleep in the bed that had gone cold? He asked himself these questions. So what he did is he drifted deeper into the arms of his mistress. He grew even more distant from his wife and his children, who are now being raised by the shadow of his absence. And then one night on Bagadi Road, after several rounds of drinks, he was driving and he dozed off behind the wheel. Okay? Suddenly he opened his eyes and he was bathed in very bright light. Okay? He was in the glow of very bright headlights that blinded him. He couldn't see anything. And instantly he heard a loud bang. He was thrown forward. There was a sound of metal twisting, glass shattering, and tires screeching. And then there was complete and total darkness. And my inner story ended there. So, gentlemen, we have to ask ourselves, why did Maina stay? He was not getting anything from that marriage. He was not respected. He was not getting sex. He was not being catered to. He was losing respect in front of his children. So there's something that traps many men. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. And the sunk cost fallacy is the irrational belief that the more you have invested, the harder it is to walk away. Okay? So this idea of sunk cost, actually, it's borrowed from economics and psychology. And the sunk cost fallacy refers to the irrational tendency to continue investing in something simply because of what has already been spent, whether it is time, whether it is money, or it's emotional energy. Even when the future payoff is bleak or even guaranteed not to be forthcoming, you want to stay because of what you've invested. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, they wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. They say that people would rather double down on bad bets than admit they have lost. And this is how also gambling destroys people. So many people, once they've sunk in so much in a gamble, they'd rather just continue and try to retrieve any kind of victory or salvage something. The reason the sunk cost fallacy is called a fallacy, it's because it is based on faulty reasoning. And it tricks the mind into making decisions for the wrong reasons. A sunk cost is something you've already invested, whether it is money, time, effort, or emotion, that cannot be recovered. For example, if you spend 500 shillings on an unrefundable ticket, that money is gone, whether you attend the event or not. Excuse me. So Mina thought, I can't leave her now. We've been together for 20 years. We've built so much together. If I leave, it's all wasted. The kids, the house, the church. my reputation will collapse. That is what Mina was thinking. But from a red pill perspective, this is not loyalty. This is called psychological imprisonment. Sometimes, gentlemen, the only winning move is to walk away. So let's look at the psychological cost of the sunk cost. So Mina's collapse was not an accident. Men who are in high conflict, sexless marriages, they pay with their health through suffering from hypertension, alcoholism, diabetes, depression, obesity. The list is endless. Okay? The American Psychological Association confirms this. It says that men in such marriages suffer higher rates of depression and substance abuse than unmarried men. In The Manipulated Man, Esther Villa tells us that modern marriages often reduce men into workhorses. They are drained, yet they are too afraid of loss to walk away. So basically, what we are looking at is Maina consented to his own slow death. He was basically like a man who is committing suicide or a man who has a death wish. Let's look at the economic cost. Maina was afraid that divorce would ruin him financially, but he ignored the daily drain of staying in that marriage. Compliance, meaning he was trying to comply to his wife's demands. The wife was, of course, escalating and making endless demands. And the cost of sustaining a mistress. Side chicks are very expensive. You have to give her money for the salon, get her Airbnb or rent another house, give her upkeep, give her attention, and so on and so forth. So he basically had to substitute his marriage with another while living in that same marriage. So because the marriage was sexless, he had to have this side chick to take care of his sexual urges. In the myth of male power, Warren Farrell tells us that men are conditioned to see their worth in provision, even when provision is killing them. That's how we are. It is in the identity of a father and a husband that we have enmeshed our lives that keeps us locked in and unable to find an escape route or an outlet. And let's not forget, research published in the Social Organization of Sexuality shows that 20% of married men are in sexless marriages. Okay? Many of these men, like Maina, they pay extra for intimacy outside the home. So rather than count their losses and leave, many men prefer to pay more for what they are not getting in their marriages. So for Maina, every shilling he spent to maintain appearances was a tax on his own weakness. What about the social cost or the sunk cost fallacy? So Maina told himself, I'm staying for the kids. But was he really present? Richard Reeves wrote a book called Of Boys and Men. And in that book, Richard Reeves tells us that sons learn masculinity from their fathers. But a withdrawn, broken father, he leaves his boys with only weakness to imitate. So if you're a man out there and you keep going home with a long face, you are sad, or you go home when you're drunk, or you go home late, they never even see you, you're not helping your kids by pretending that you're there for the kids. So, gentlemen, let's be blunt. Staying for the kids often damages them more than living with strength. Okay? Let's look at the sexual cost of this sunk cost fallacy. Marriage without sex is not a marriage. It's a legal roommate arrangement. Myron Gain says in Women Deserve Less that women weaponize sex as leverage. It's part of the feminine architecture. Okay? And Rollo Tomasi reminds us in The Rational Male that when men fail to enforce boundaries, they lose respect. And with it, they lose desire. By staying in a marriage that you're not respected, you are failing to enforce boundaries. Okay? And you're not going to be respected in a marriage where you can't enforce boundaries. You're also not going to be desirable to your woman. So by accepting the sexlessness, Mina validated his own irrelevance as a man. Gentlemen, never validate your own irrelevance. Even if somebody thinks you are irrelevant, do not validate it by staying and by sanctioning it and by accepting it. It's better to walk away and prove your relevance elsewhere. Go to people who value you. Be with people who choose you. Choose people who choose you. So how can men break free from the sunk cost fallacy and claim their sovereignty? The first thing is you must reframe sunk costs. Okay? You must reframe them as lessons, not as chains. You need to learn, not lose. Let them become your lessons and not your chains. Every wasted year in every wasted year is tuition paid for wisdom. So don't look at it as a wasted year. Look at it as tuition for the wisdom that you have received. Use it. Don't stay shackled by it. Use your pain to fuel your value, your valuing up. Okay? You can use that pain as fuel to make you work harder to become the best version of yourself. Secondly, return to mission-centric living. Make your mission first. Put your purpose as the first thing in your life. Rollo Tomasi says that your mission comes before any woman. So your life is bigger than her. Don't operate from one-itis. Don't operate from scarcity. Go raise your eyes to higher ideals. Thirdly, enforce sexual boundaries. Sexlessness is not a phase. It is a deal breaker. You must have non-negotiables in your marriages. If a woman does not have or refuses to have sex with you, that is a deal breaker. Okay? And you need to treat it as such. The same way, it will be very difficult for you to find men who are entertained if they're not paying rent, they're not paying the bills, and they're not buying food in the house. It will be a deal breaker for women, and so should this be for you. Okay? Also, you need to build escape velocity. You must always, as a man, ensure that you have resources to give you room for maneuvering. In Anti-Fragile, Nassim Nicholas Taleb tells us that you must have what he calls a fuck you money. Okay? The fifth one is you should lead, don't linger. Your kids should not see you when you're miserable and broken. Okay? They need to see you decisive, they need to see you sovereign, and they need to see you unafraid to protect your dignity. So, in closing, gentlemen, we need to ask ourselves this question, or these questions. How many of you are living Mina's life in slow motion? How many of you are sacrificing your health, your masculinity, your very soul just to preserve an image? Is the price of your silence worth your sovereignty? Is the fear of walking away worth more than the life you are slowly losing? And most importantly, when the headlights finally blind you, will you realize too late that you should have chosen yourself? Gentlemen, the choice is yours. I'll see you on the next one. Gentlemen, if you found value in this video, do me a solid. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with another man who needs to hear it. Here is why it matters. When you like and subscribe, YouTube pushes this content to more men out there who are struggling silently. So your simple click could be the reason another man wakes up to his reality. You could actually save a life by doing so. And for you who has already watched, subscribing makes sure you never miss these lessons. Every week, I'll be dropping strategies, red pill truths, and survival frameworks that will help you to stay sharp, stay sovereign, and ahead of the curve. So subscribe, like, share, because when one man wins, we all rise.